I'll just open this up for you guys. John, I'll start with you. Is Dalton Knecht the most valuable ball for his team in the history of Tennessee athletics?
Well, he's on a very short list. I mean, when you go through that and you look, I think Peyton Manning is obviously one of Tennessee's greatest players, but the team won a national championship the next year without Peyton. So there's a whole lot of talent there. I don't know how much different their record would have been if maybe T. Martin would have started that year. Maybe it wouldn't have been as good. But I think about this team without Dalton Knecht, and I think it would be struggling to make the NCAA tournament.
Caleb, I agree. You?
I disagree with you guys totally. I'm just going to say it. And the reason I say that is because this team was a sweet.
Well, don't be so subtle about it. Just go ahead, throw it out there, Kevin.
This same team was a Sweet 16 team last year without Dalton Knecht, and they didn't have Zakai. Now, Dalton Knecht looks more valuable. He is valuable, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of it is Rick Barnes kind of changed up the offense dramatically because of what he had in Dalton Knecht. So it makes certain players look less valuable, i.e. Santiago Vescovi in that regard. And so I can't sit there and say I don't think he was more valuable than Candace Parker was to those two Lady Vol national title teams in 07 and 08. Because there weren't that many. That wasn't the same teams that Pat Summitt was coaching in the 90s. They weren't loaded with All-Americans. It was Candace Parker, pretty much, by herself carrying them. They had Alexis Hornbuckle, Cindy Spencer for one of them, but it was Candace Parker. So I can't sit there and say Dalton Knecht was more valuable than she was to those two teams.
Well, I just don't know where the offenses would come from. Vescovi he's lost his shot. He can't shoot anymore. I think he's lost his step too. He plays really hard. I give him a lot of credit, but he just looks a step slower. So does Triple J to me. And I don't want him shooting a three with a game on the line. I just think everything is built around. Yeah, and Ziegler's obviously a really good point guard. But man, I mean, I think this team can make the Final Four. In fact, I would bet on it making the Final Four. And there's no way it would make the Final Four without Dalton Knecht.
Okay, well,
but we're talking about levels of elevation here.
Okay, but hold on a second, because that would change things. Okay, because I understood what Caleb said, and I tend to think that it's Al Wilson, Candace, and then everybody else. Those are like 1, 2, and then everybody else.
Well, John, wait, Dave. What one person you got to count is you go to baseball with Todd Helton because he was a pitcher and a great hitter.
Todd Helton is a big one, yeah.
No way they would have gotten close to the World Series without him.
That's true. If they make it to so we got a top grouping there. If they make it to the Final Four, Caleb, does that change your argument? If they win a national championship, does that change your argument? Could your argument be changed?
It would still be hard to do it even if they won the national championship. It wouldn't if they make the Final Four, because you're telling me Dalton Knecht elevates the Vols 2 more rounds in the NCAA tournament from where they already were last year, which was a Sweet 16 team. That's not like this. When you talk about value, you have to talk about level of elevation. This is why I always said I still to this day would take Peyton Manning over Tom Brady, because Peyton Manning turned a 2-14 team into a 14-2 team. The Colts were 14-2 with him and made the Super Bowl, and then 2-14 without him. Level of elevation matters to a certain degree. And Dalton Knecht is elevating a already Sweet 16 team for us to say that's a Final Four team. I'm with John. Like, you're with Todd Helton, you're talking about a team that's probably not even an NCAA tournament team to a College World Series team with Todd Helton. And so, I mean, that's a massive level of elevation. To go back in history, I think you could maybe say that I couldn't say any of the Neyland teams in football because they were loaded with talent, but I could say the 56 team, because Johnny Majors really did carry that 56 team by himself.
True. I think our upper crust, though, is going to be Candace Parker, Al Wilson, Todd Helton, and then Dalton Knecht. So those are our 4. What?
Even Al Wilson, though, Dave, that team is 10-2 without Al Wilson.
That's not winning a national championship, though.
And it's levels of elevation. It's levels of elevation.
I don't understand what levels of elevation means.
That's a new term that Caleb has coined. It will become part of our sports vernacular.
Okay. how much do you improve a team over where it would be without you? And so what I mean is, like, if you turn a 10-2 team into a national champion, okay, I think it's more impressive to take a 5-5 team to 10-2 than it is a 10-2 team to a national champion.
Monica Abbott getting a vote as well. I completely disagree with that. I think that's a 9-3 team. I don't think they are anywhere close to where they were, because Al Wilson was holding workouts 3 days after they lost in the Fiesta Bowl the year before. So I think his leadership extended 365 days and won them a national title, and I don't think they're close without it. John, of those four, how would you rank them? And please vote on our YouTube page. Al Wilson, Todd Helton, Candace Parker, and Dalton Knecht. How would you rank those 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, it's hard to rank because Dalton Knecht didn't finish. But if Tennessee would win the national championship, I would probably rank Dalton Knecht first. You go back, Candace Parker won 2 national titles with Candace Parker. But there were some good players on that team. Nikki Anasicki, Alexa Hornbuckle. There were other good players on that team. I still think it could have made, I don't know, maybe the Elite Eight. I guess one of my points is with this team, with this current basketball team, I don't think Triple J or Vescovy are as good as they were last year.
Fair. John, did I hear you just say that you would bet on Tennessee to make the Final Four?
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Would you really, John?
Yeah, I would. And I don't ever bet.
Wow.
I learned a long time ago there's no success waiting on you, and there's no rainbow at the end of that at the end of the casino. I don't think you can win betting, but that's a bet that I really like.
Speak for yourself.
Does Caleb win at the casinos? Is that what you're implying?
I win sports betting. You know, some people like to invest their money in the stock market. I invested in FanDuel. I got money sitting in FanDuel, just piling up, guys. You know, some 1% returns. And
BetUS.
Yes, BetUS. That is true. That is true.
And don't take this the wrong way, Caleb, but most people who gamble, who bet a lot, lie about the results.
I don't pretend to hit parlays all the time. I don't bet on parlays except for fun.
Okay,
What I do are take very obvious odds, put enough where I can just get a small return each day.
All right, let's do this. Poorly done segue is what somebody told me, but they're laughing at it. John, let me do this. Let me go. You think Final Four? You would bet on Final Four. I would not. I'd bet on Sweet 16. That's the highest I'd go because of Rick Barnes' track record. I'm sorry, I think they're that good, but I'm basing it on Rick Barnes' track record. Caleb, what would you bet on Tennessee to go that you would put your money on?
No, I'm actually with John. I think this is a Final Four team. I think this team is different, and I think it's different because of Dalton Knecht. So I am high. I don't want y'all to think I'm not high on Dalton Knecht and his value.
Oh, I know.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I just think that this team was already a Sweet 16 team. They were last year. So you take a Sweet 16 team and you add Zakai Ziegler and Dalton Knecht. There's no and a better Jonas Adu. Now, John brings up that Triple J and Santiago Vescovi are not as good as they were last year. I actually argue that I think they're asked to do less this year. I think their roles have changed significantly so. And so particularly Triple J, or excuse me, Santi Vescovi. And they do so much defensively that I think that has more to do with, I think they would still be as good as they were last year if Dalton Knecht wasn't on the team. They just aren't asked to be as good as they were last year.